What's up, Shred Sexies? Welcome back, Death to the Fingers. I know I was supposed to putting out that other video, but I got tied up doing some tradesman stuff this morning, helping a buddy out. So it got put on hold, but I was sitting there watching this video with Rick Beato where he's just getting slammed with these copyright infringements for videos that he'd made where he played some music, obviously, but you know, there's probably a serious argument to be made there that they were fair use, because I watched one of them and, well, he played one, and you know, it's an interview with the music playing in the background. The guy's like, yeah, I sang on that. So you're kind of like, yeah, I think I recognize that song, but it's not, you know, totally familiar to me. And it's like 50 seconds long or whatever it is. And, you know, he's getting like 5 or 6 or 7 of these, so many so that he actually had to hire a lawyer full time to basically fight off these whatever copyright allegations to claim his money and stuff like that. One video alone was essentially made like $40 or something like that, $50. I don't know. So, but here's the thing, you see, like, there's this free-for-all now for control. Like, obviously the emergence of AI, they want to kind of quash the old music a little bit because they want people to transition to the new AI slop. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, they were basically prepping these people for it when they started to be like, let's make 2-minute songs on TikTok, right? Like, everything starts to line up when you're like short attention span. It's just like repetitive but mindless stuff. You know, it seems entertaining at first, but it's like eventually gets annoying. Like, you're watching something or hearing something really, really great, and then you notice this one strange frequency, and then all of a sudden you can't unhear it, if you will. You know what I mean? It starts to ruin everything, and that's exactly what AI is like. You're like, it's pretty cool, but then you realize how soulless it is. You know what I mean? It's not a true representation of the human mind or creativity. It's just a facsimile of it based on, you know, a million other sort of incarnations of it. But there's nothing unique about it. It didn't create anything. It just spat it out. You know what I mean? So this is just a further indicator of that canary in the coal mine. If you get the bands basically being like, we're going to pack it in, it creates a void. Basically, that upward mobility that they create when they're releasing albums and stuff and going on tours, it just pulls all the satellite bands up with them. You know what I mean? It creates upward momentum. So people are interested in the genre. They're checking out the music. They're going to the concerts. If that dies off, well, I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that there's going to be some stagnation there. We don't really have a huge amount of bands that can fill the void. You know what I mean? You don't just replace AC/DC or Metallica. You know what I mean? I don't care if you're like, well, the last 4 albums or 5 albums have been like ho-hum or whatever. Of only a few of them been pretty good. And I'm just like, fair enough. But I'm like, they're still selling out stadiums and whatnot. And honestly, I'm pretty sure most people just want to hear the classics. Just change them up. You know what I mean? So that's going to be a huge problem. Then, of course, there's the shift to whatever you want to call the music industry right now. I mean, I don't even know what to call it. It used to be a collection of like musicians and recording engineers and producers, you know, like Quincy Jones and stuff. He'd come up with the music and the stuff, and they'd get artists to sing the material, and they'd line up the musicians to do all the backing tracks. There's that really famous sort of story between Quincy Jones and Steve Lukather when they're doing Beat It and whatnot. It's great. But you know what I mean? Like, that whole sphere is gone. It's like the record company, the bean counters, the businessmen, and then you have producers that just basically make all the music. So there's like 12 people that make all the music for all the pop stars across basically every genre of music. And then, of course, you do have session musicians now, but that's even sort of called down massively, even in terms of different styles. You have country and you have pop. and then metal. But honestly, metal, when you start looking at it in terms of other things, it's not really that big. So, I mean, it's big enough. We think it's big. We like to feel special, but in the big picture, we're like really tiny fish now. So, and that's fine. It doesn't matter how big the scene is. Once it loses a bit of vitality, now that's a bigger problem. But the music industry's fundamentally changed. You know what I mean? Now, listen, I'm not even talking about the seedier, sort of nastier side of it either. I'm just talking about the actual process that we go through to make music, the creative process, from money people to, you know, the what I call the go-betweens, you know, the people that sort of go between the money people and the creatives. They act as like the, the conduit to make that relationship work. Because these people have a mindset and these people have a mindset, and those things are like oil and water. So what happened was these guys just got rid of the go-between ones and then just replaced them with their own soulless sort of artists and whatnot that now create all the music for even more plasticky sort of figureheads. They're not even artists. They're just replaceable figureheads. Does it really matter if it's Dua Lipa or Olivia Rodrigo or Sabrina Carpenter or Taylor Swift? What difference is there, per se, realistically speaking, between their music? Like, there's a big difference between Pat Benatar and Cyndi Lauper and Madonna. Okay? Now, that's a huge spread. So, are we claiming that that's the spread between the modern pop artists? Because I don't hear it at all. I mean, honestly, Taylor Swift is a 30-year-old woman that still makes music that's basically tailored towards teenagers. I'm sorry, that's a little weird. Most artists mature and they start talking about more mature stuff because you become more mature. But you see what I'm saying there? There's this infantilization process, if you will, that's just kind of killed it, and that's it. There's these tentacles of control. The whole Live Nation taking over venues, basically creating a stranglehold on buying live tickets. A monopoly, effectively. Oh, I don't know. There's a few other little places. It's not a monopoly. You know, it's just stupid. And of course, they're facilitated too. YouTube helps UMG, the people that are basically making Rick Beato's life a hell. So, you know, they could, revamp the whole copyright infringement process and be like, prove your claim first. How are you claiming that this is copyright rather than just clicking a box? And that's just it. They use AI to go out there and do 99% of the work, right? And then there's some sort of scummy collection company, effectively, that collates all the information and submits all the claims to YouTube. That's their business model. And then they're successful on like 25%, but the other 75 are just frivolous and vexatious, and they just waste everybody's time and just bogs down the system. It becomes incredibly annoying. And there it is. Job's done. I'm just like, pfft. It's not even about the music anymore. It's just, it's like, you know, predatory financial practices that ingratiate solely the business aspect. These people exist because they take a small tithe off the top or whatever it is. We'll collect 15% of the $60 we're going to get from Rick Beato, and then you can have the other 60 and then get all the royalties thence afterwards. You know what I mean? It's like a bail bondsman for the record label. I don't know if that's an accurate, assessment there, but you get the idea. You see what I mean? That's the state of the music industry now. That they would attack a highly successful artist like Rick Beato and try to be like, yeah, let's tank this guy's music channel that's followed by millions of independent musicians. What kind of message are you sending there? Canary in the coal mine, boys, I'm telling you. Like, there's going to be some sort of cataclysmic drop not just in terms of the music stuff, in terms of just society in general, when people are just like, we've all had enough, or it just gets to the breaking point or whatever. But something's got to give, you know what I mean? And then it's just going to be one hell of a ride upwards. So, you know, plan accordingly kind of situation. But I wanted to tie this in a little bit with that Megadeth video, because it's true. What do you think the next goalpost will be? Oh, that'll be people's music that basically sounds like something else that's more famous and is owned by, more importantly, a corporation that has the financial resources that'll go after you and start appropriating your creative outputs. And that's just it. Like Hollywood, I should say, although that's basically interchangeable now with the music industry. That whole racket out there has been doing this ripoff where they basically steal their own intellectual property and just repackage it. You know what I mean? Like, you know how they keep doing remakes and prequels and all this other crap. It's just, you know, even though it's not working anymore for them, before this, it was a very reliable source of coin for them, right? So they actually have a term for it called interpolation in the music industry, where it's just like take other previously famous hits and just sort of put your own little spin on it and just call it your own, but be like, oh, we interpolated this. It's pretty funny. So, I mean, there you are. They don't get nailed, right? It's okay when we do it, but as soon as Rick Beato's interviewing the guy that sang on this really famous tune, and there's like 50-second snippet of it, of him talking about it while the music plays in the background, that's a problem. That's the one you got to go after. And so the next one's going to be like anybody that sounds remotely close to like Sabrina Carpenter or anybody else. But the fact of the matter is Sabrina Carpenter sounds like, you know, probably half a dozen people before them. She could probably draw a straight line back for most of her music once you strip away all the weird noises and everything else that this pop music crap does, and look at the chord progression and be like, yeah, there it is, and pick like 100 songs that have the exact same chord progression, just in various keys, both major and minor. So plan accordingly when you're writing music or you're starting to prepare to learn music and stuff. And it's pretty funny, actually. I've seen a couple other people on Twitter and whatnot starting to sound the alarm bells with respect to this false mentality that you don't have to learn music theory or anything else like that to actually be successful anymore. Those days are long gone, man. And you're now competing with really high skilled musicians. But the thing is you can be more creative than almost anybody. If you think outside the box, you can present the music in a way that nobody can be like, oh yeah, no, that's a copy of a copy of a copy. No. Right? And that's really what your aim and your thrust has to be. Just like the Megadeth thing, it's like, instead of being like, oh, I need the record company to sort of slingshot me up through the ranks so I could become a huge rock star, you have to take more of a DIY approach and be like, I have to kind of figure it out on my own, to whatever extent that is. And now, of course, you got to be like, I got to be intelligent about my decisions, or else I'm going to get nailed with this kind of stuff. And it just becomes a massive hassle. And if you actually built up a half decent following on YouTube or some other social media site, one day you could potentially lose it all, because they're just like, oh, you infringed on our copyright, bro. And you have this huge problem on your hands, right? So if you can write music that just supersedes most of the 90% of the dross you get out on a regular basis, right? Just in the pop market and everything else, you'll be fine. It's when you start to simplify down too much, or you do too much formulaic stuff. Food for thought. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys tomorrow with that video. I've already started into the recordings. See you in the next one.